May 3rd is just round the corner, a couple of weeks away now, and it's, of course, that's the day of the local elections, 2018. Those are the council elections that happen every year, and they're a good sort of measure on how well the politicians are doing in Parliament. And May 3rd will have 32 London boroughs up for grabs, 34 metropolitan boroughs, 68 district and borough councils, and 17 unitary authorities. There's also going to be mayoral elections going on that day as well in Hackney, Lewisham, Newham, Tower Hamlets and Watford. Now, Tower Hamlets will be an interesting one because that's where historically there's been loads of electoral fraud, and it's only a certain section of the community that were doing the electoral fraud. And of course, look for Rackman from Tower Hamlets, who's actually banned from standing for election because of electoral fraud, is backing a new party in Tower Hamlets called Aspire. They'll probably win. But anyway, what's interesting is the polls are showing that the Labour Party and Theresa May's Conservative Party are about neck and neck in the polls. They're about 40% each. So that really shows us we're back to a two-party system. A few years ago, we had the Liberal Democrats in coalition government, and then shortly after that, we had UKIP gaining 4 million votes in a general election. So it's quite a difference in just a couple of years. I read in the Times that election analysts Colin Rawlings and Michael Thrasher of Northfield College in Oxford, they've predicted that the Conservatives will lose 75 seats, Labour will gain 200, and the Lib Dems will gain 30. They've projected that UKIP will lose almost all or all of its 125 seats. Now, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens because May's been hurt by a series of setbacks, especially with Brexit. The most recent one being the House of Lords. A few days ago, I said that this week the House of Lords are likely to vote on an amendment that suggests Britain should stay in the customs union in the EU. Well, they did vote for that amendment. I think the majority was over 120. The original prediction was that it might win with a majority of 50, but it was well over 100. So that's a huge setback for Theresa May, and that hurts her in the local elections. And, you know, it's not really her fault. You know, if we're going to be optimistic about it, then Theresa May is trying to get Brexit through. But these series of setbacks won't help her, whether it's her fault or not. People just see it as a Brexit failure. So why do people turn to Labour then? Well, I think a lot of working class people will go back to Labour because traditionally the working class support Labour, and they probably just assume that actually Brexit's a done deal. I know a lot of people who are like that. They think that the politicians will follow through with Brexit because that's what we voted for. So people will go back to Labour not because they agree with Jeremy Corbyn's stance on immigration or things like that. I think it's mostly just that Corbyn is a protest vote. We're partway through Theresa May's Conservative government. People want to show that they're unhappy with it, so they're going to vote for Corbyn as a protest. He's the socialist Trump, really. So realistically, who else can they turn to? The Lib Dems are way too anti-Brexit to be the protest vote, I think. Their literature, if you've received any through the post recently, even in the council stuff, you'll see it's help us exit from Brexit. They are so anti-Brexit that it's going to... I mean, maybe it's a smart strategy in that at least they'll get some votes because there are some people that really hate Brexit. But they're too anti-Brexit to be a protest vote. So that's why I think it's going to go over to Corbyn in this election. Although in saying that, the Lib Dems have been winning council elections, by-elections throughout the year. Vince Cable said recently that the Lib Dems have been winning council by-elections every Thursday for the last year or so. And, well, he's not far wrong. They have been winning a lot of elections recently. So it'll be interesting to see how well they do on May 3rd. So here's a breakdown of the candidates by party. We got the Conservatives have got 4,398. Labour's got 4,362. The Lib Dems, 3,315. Greens, an amazing number, 2,158. UKIP, 635. That's a huge decrease. Just 635. Then there's the BNP, 7. Independent, over 1,000, and other, 114. Now, it's interesting that the BNP is even still on that list because, I mean, the party's dead, good riddance to bad rubbish and all that. But the most interesting thing about this list, I think, is that UKIP didn't even manage the 800 or I think it's 850 candidates that you need in order to get TV airtime. Now, if I were UKIP, I'd have been really scrambling for those remaining 150, 200 candidates, even if they were just ballot, paper candidates, because that gives you airtime on national television. UKIP needs it. UKIP really needs it right now. I think they're going to really struggle. But as what you don't see on this list, because it's within the other category, there's only 114 candidates from other parties, which seems quite small actually. There's more independents than there are others. But anyway, Anne-Marie Waters, who we've been talking about this week, her party, For Britain, is standing 15 candidates. And For Britain was only registered a few weeks ago by the Electoral Commission. I'm going to be doing a video on this soon, actually, about how the Electoral Commission gets in the way of democracy. Because recently what they did with Anne-Marie's party was they said that the Constitution was discriminatory, and I was told that was because Anne-Marie told me that it was because the Constitution said that the rights of citizens should be put before the rights of non-citizens, which is, well, that's the whole point of citizenship. They also banned the party's logo for a while. It's a trident. They claimed it was offensive and militaristic. Clearly, none of them knew that actually a trident is a fishing tool. So really, the party's still quite new in terms of being officially registered. So 15 candidates. It's quite impressive. Hopefully I'll bring you an interview with one of their candidates soon, actually. I will try and do some interviews with UKIP, Tory and Labour candidates, but something tells me they're not going to talk to me. But I'll try. There's also the Democrats and Veterans. Now, this is a party that was started, I believe, by John Rhys Evans, who was also in the same race for UKIP leadership as Anne-Marie. He didn't come as close as Anne-Marie came, but he's running this party called Democrats and Veterans. I don't know how many candidates are standing. I have looked and I've tried to find out, and it's quite hard. I know they're up against For Britain in 2 wards in Leeds, so that'll be interesting. But just some comment on the name and direction of that party. I mean, maybe they'll do okay in some local elections if they've got a really good candidate, but just the name Democrats and Veterans. Democrats, great. Veterans, great. But the minute you start putting things like veterans in a party name, I think, personally, I think it kind of shifts people away from supporting you because they think you're a single issue party, you know? So again, it'll be interesting to see how the Democrats and Veterans do. It'll be interesting to see how any small party does actually, but the one small party that I can guarantee you is going to be completely annihilated is the BNP. I don't know why they're still around, frankly. Hopefully they'll be gone soon. So here are my predictions. I think the Tories are going to lose seats. I think they're going to lose a lot of seats. People are unhappy with May. She's not making enough progress with Brexit. Corbyn's seen as a protest vote. And I feel bad saying this, actually, because I know Prime Minister's a tough job, but Theresa just doesn't have the charisma, and she doesn't really, I don't know, strike us as a confident sort of character or a leader. So I think the Tories are going to really suffer. And that's really just a way of the voters telling the Tories that they're not happy. Unemployment, by the way, fell to 1.44 million at the beginning of this year, which was good, but it's rising again. It's rising at the fastest rate in 5 years, so maybe that's another reason why the Tories are going to struggle in the polls this year as well. I think Labour's going to sweep up nationally. Nationally, Labour's going to do very well indeed. And in London, it looks like they're going to make huge gains. There's a story here from The Independent. Labour to sweep London in local elections with best result for any party since 1968. Survey indicates just 28% of Londoners plan to vote Tory. Now, this could signify one of two things. It could signify the fact that the Tories are deeply unpopular. 3 things. The Tories are deeply unpopular, the Labour Party is just exceptionally popular, or that London's demographics have changed quite significantly. We've got a young population there who are naturally less conservative. We've got a large immigrant population there who are naturally more inclined to vote Labour. They're very, very anti-Brexit there in this Westminster bubble, so it's no surprise, actually, to be honest, that the Tories are going to struggle in London. UKIP will struggle as well, actually. I think the Lib Dems will gain a handful of seats. They'll save a lot of their seats and gain a handful. I'll be Interested to see if they gain more than 30 seats. It'll show how well their local campaigns work, actually. Traditionally, the Liberals, the Liberal Democrats, have been very good on a local basis, but in years gone by, they haven't had a policy like opposing Brexit and opposing the results of a referendum on the platform. So it'll be interesting to see how well the local campaigns weigh against the fact that they're really anti-Brexit. As I say, BNP will be a wipeout. I think UKIP will lose every seat. I really think UKIP will lose every single seat. Maybe I'll be generous and say they'll defend one seat, perhaps. But UKIP's job's considered done by most people now. And the thing is, with UKIP, they could have changed their fortunes and started growing again post-Brexit. But I personally don't know if they've convinced the public that there's still reason for them to live yet. There's still reason for them to go on. I don't think they've done a good enough job in convincing the public that they've got good reason to be there. For Britain, brand new party, 15 candidates is a good start, so whatever the results really, I'd be very surprised if For Britain win any seats. It's very hard to do, especially as a new party, but I guess for them, this is more an exercise in branding and establishing a name, so I guess that's one to watch for the future. But the real winner overall, May 3rd, we'll see, but I think it'll be Jeremy Corbyn. Oh, God help us. If you want to see more from me and the rest of the Rebel team, remember to download our app on the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store, and like and subscribe.